Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto Was the God of Taijutsu, and this story is made by froznx, and I hope you guys enjoy this video, and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Night had long since fallen on the village of Konoha. Most of the village had shut their lights off and went to bed by now. However, one light still burned bright in the village. The Hokage and Iruka sat awake, albeit barely in Iruka's case, in the old man's office. Some people would wonder why the two would still be awake at such a late hour. The reason was actually quite simple. Hatake Kakashi. The man was late, again. Iruka knew that the Chunin they sent to get him may have had to wake him up, but it still shouldn't have taken nearly this long for the man to get ready and be on his way. They wouldn't have needed him at all if Iruka hadn't needed to change the teams. He had just recently given Naruto his headband, making the boy an official shinobi. While he had done so gladly at the time, he was regretting it at the moment. Finding Naruto a team had been easy, he just made the mistake of throwing him in the group with a chronically late sensei, who they happened to need permission from before they changed his team. Not that Iruka was sure the Hokage really needed permission for anything, but it was still courteous to let the man know of his new arrangement. At least that's what Iruka would have thought even an hour and a half ago. Now he was just tired and about fed up with waiting for him. Not to mention he was still covered in cuts and bruises from his scrap with Mizuki. Yeah, all the big stuff had been healed, but he still felt particularly sore. Looking at the Hokage, he noticed that the man's elderly face didn't seem at all tired or even all that anxious about the tardiness of one of his shinobi. He just sat there going about his paperwork. Iruka was about to inquire as to why he seemed so content with this clear showing of disrespect when a loud pop happened right next to him. Following the pop was a cloud of smoke, of which the current object of Iruka's contempt stepped out of. Yo. The man waved, held one hand in the air as he spoke lazily. The Hokage smiled. Good to see you, Kakashi. What kept you this time? Kakashi shrugged. You know, had to rescue a tree from a cat. Wait. Kakashi paused and seemed to think about it for a minute, much to Iruka's chagrin. Iruka decided to give a small cough to alert the Jonin of his presence. Kakashi turned slowly and looked at Iruka steadily with his one eye. Something about that unnerved the Chunin a little. This stare-off continued 30 seconds until Kakashi's one visible eye appeared to smile at him. Sorry, I didn't even see you there. Iruka wanted to retort with slander of some sort but stopped. The man was here. Might as well just end things fast. He could finally get this whole thing over with and get some well-deserved rest. With that thought in mind, he hurriedly pulled out a sheet of paper. There was a change to the teams. Uzumaki Naruto has been swapped into your group. At least that was what he intended to say. Instead, the only thing heard was the door being kicked in and a voice loud enough to wake half the village. Dynamic entry. The Green Beast, otherwise known as Might Guy, leapt into the office. When he landed, he took a sweep of the room, but his eyes stopped when he caught sight of the hair that defied gravity itself. Ah, my youthful rival, Kakashi. I see your flame burns bright this night as well. Tell me, my friend, what brings you to this place at this untimely hour? Guy's assault of words was spoken in just as booming a voice as when he first entered, and Iruka felt like plugging his ears. Instead, he let out what sounded like a whimper, dropped the paper and slid down into his seat. Defeated. Oh, Guy, when did you get here? Kakashi said with disinterest and his nose deep in a bright orange book. Damn. Guy shouted, throwing his hands in the air. I can't stand that hip attitude of yours. It drives me insane. If it were not 3 in the morning, I would challenge you to youthful combat. Alas, even I need to recharge my battery at night. Several thoughts came to Iruka at once. The first pondered on if there was a volume switch for this man. Seriously, did the man ever stop shouting? Another thought was much more horrifying. If this was what the man was like on low energy, he never wanted to see him fully charged. Third, but definitely not a thought to disregard, was the spandex-clad man's purpose in being here. Surely it was some form of divine punishment, which led him to wonder what he did to deserve it. As this train of wonder kept on going, so did Guy's voice. However, Guy paused his rant as he took note of the paper Iruka had dropped to the floor. In the blink of an eye, he snatched it up and was reading through its contents. Taking on a genin team, Kakashi. Might as well fail them now, none of them could compete with my Lee. Kakashi continued to ignore him and read his book. Undeterred, Guy continued, although I've heard of this Uzumaki Naruto. He sounds most youthful, it is a shame it is channeled into things such as pranks. Under the proper guidance he could light a flame of youth so bright even the sun would seem just a flicker. Then how about a trade? You take Naruto and I'll take that Hyuga genius off your hands. Iruka's head suddenly snapped up, staring wide-eyed at Kakashi, the comment clearly breaking him of his depressed train of thoughts. Guy himself rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The Hokage sat in his chair, his expression had yet to change since Kakashi entered. The one-eyed Jonin hadn't even pulled his face out of the book as he spoke. He took the silence as a chance to add more. If you are afraid of not being able to study more about the Yukan style, then I have a solution. There was also a Hyuga in this graduating class. The heiress, in fact. Give me the female on your team and you can have her too. Guy's shiny smile seemed to make the room even brighter. It was true. He had been worried about losing insight on the Yukan, but he would never admit it. The gentle fist fascinated him and he would be damned if he lost a way to study it. Guy was also no fool. He knew that even though she was the heiress, she was the black sheep of the clan. While most Hyuga stood tall and arrogant, she walked hunched and meekly. But that in itself was a plus. Between him, Lee, and maybe even this Naruto, they could bring her out of that and make her much more youthful than her older cousin. It was decided. I accept Kakashi, but what do you say? Why don't we make this more interesting? Kakashi for the first time looked up from his book, but before he could inquire as to what Guy meant, Iruka interrupted. You can't be serious. He sounded exasperated. You can't simply trade teams, especially with a group that's been together for a whole year now. It just can't be done. He looked to the Hokage for support, but to his horror saw a gleam in the elderly man's eye. All 5 eyes were now on him. After a drag on his pipe and a long blow, he spoke. I would like to hear the rest of what Guy has to say. If possible. Guy's smile got bigger while Iruka's mouth seemed to hit the floor. A bet. Guy continued. The team that does better in the upcoming Chunin exams is the winner of the bet, simple as that. As for the stakes, you will finally show me what is behind that mask. Guy shouted the last bit and again Iruka was sure half the village was awake now. You have to give up spandex, was Kakashi's quick retort. For life, he added as an afterthought. Guy seemed to pale at the terms, but it went away almost as fast as it appeared. He apparently had little doubt of failure. Looks like we got a deal then. They both turned to the Hokage. Guy bowed to nearly a 90-degree angle before speaking again. I would be honored if you would arrange this for us, Hokage-sama. The Hokage looked thoughtful for a minute. Guy seemed to be sweating profusely from his position but refused to stand up straight. Iruka chewed on his nails nervously. Kakashi looked as calm and uninterested as ever. Finally, the Hokage spoke. I'll accept it on a few terms. Guy shot up straight so fast the Hokage felt his own back ache. If only he could somehow draw on his flames of youth. Firstly, you are both required to have your teams participate in D-rank missions for at least 2 weeks. Next, I want this to be explained to the teams in a way as not to upset them. I don't care what you say, but I want no hard feelings between you and your students. Finally, take great care of Naruto's secret. He just became aware of it tonight. As his sensei, help him out in any way you can to make sure he knows you see him for who he is. That is all. The last 2 had been directed at Guy. He knew it wouldn't be hard for his team to part though. His other 2 students just didn't have the youth Lee and himself seemed to exhume. He had hoped with time that they would show more passion, but Neji remained cold and uncaring. Tenten was a kind enough student but was always more focused on sharpening her weapons and training with Neji than working out with them. Not that she could have kept up anyway. It was heartbreaking to admit, but it seemed as almost 2 different teams had formed within Team Guy. This was not something Guy intended to let happen again. Guy was also well prepared for the 3rd term. He saw the looks the boy was given. The fact that he turned out the way he did spoke volumes of the flames of youth he harbored. Guy had nothing but respect for the poor boy. The Hokage just then continued with instructions for the 2. Guy, you and Lee are to go pick up Naruto and Hinata a day from now. They have tomorrow off. I'll leave it to you, Kakashi, as to where you want to meet your new students. Just be sure to pick up Sasuke at the academy. And try to be on time. The Hokage knew it was a lost cause, but hey, he tried. With nothing else to say, the two bowed and turned to leave. As Guy took a step towards the door, he tripped over something. 3 sets of eyes looked down to realize that one Yumino Iruka had fainted, probably when the Hokage had agreed to the arrangement. The Hokage only chuckled as he asked Guy to take him to the hospital for him. Guy nodded his acceptance. He picked the man up, slung him over his shoulder, and was on his way with blazing speed. Kakashi then disappeared in a puff of smoke, just as he had come. The Hokage finally leaned back in his chair. He felt more his age now that they were gone. He needed to start hanging around young people more. He chucked. Just what he needed, more of Guy's youthful speeches. At least Naruto should be enough of a handful for Guy for a while. If not the other way around. He chuckled some more. He looked down at the rest of the team sheets. He would have to arrange them some more for Iruka. Fortunately, it wouldn't be hard, there happened to be just one easy fix. The Hokage stood up and all his bones in his body cracked. He walked over to the door and shut the light off. It had been a long night. At least it promised for interesting things in the future. Naruto was irritated. He had been having such a good day. He had made it to the academy on time. That would be the first and last time that ever happened. Naruto had thought he had been having a pretty lucky streak until now. Someone had finally accepted him, he became a ninja, a step closer to his goal of Hokage. Hell, he even got to teach the old man's grandkid a perverted jutsu yesterday. So naturally he figured his luck had turned around. Only to turn around and be completely shut down by Sakura. But that was no problem. He was used to that. He was also quite upset when Sakura and him hadn't been put in the same team. It did help that she looked just as dejected when not put in a team with Sasuke. Instead she had left with Shino and Kiba and some female jonin who had long black hair. Again, this wasn't the point of his concern. It also wasn't the fact that Sasuke and he had done something unspeakable. They had kissed. Naruto shuddered even thinking about it. He didn't even care when all the girls had thrashed him. Once again, this wasn't the current cause of his irritable mood. No, the problem was when they got called off into teams he hadn't been put in one at all. Naruto wanted to know what the hell was going on. He was in the room with just Iruka-sensei, Sasuke, and Hinata. It made him feel better that at least they looked as confused as he was. In fact, Hinata happened to be just as confused as Naruto. She hoped that the fact that the 3 of them were the only genin left in the room meant that they were on a team, but something seemed off. Maybe they weren't made ninja after all and were being sent back. Maybe they would be told to quit altogether. Hinata could understand if they told her that, but not Naruto. He worked so hard and didn't deserve something like that. Surely he would find some way to overcome it though. She thought all this while shyly staring at the boy of her affections who was obviously miffed. Iruka had one big headache. All the medicine and healing ninjutsu in the world wouldn't be enough to get rid of this one. He couldn't believe he had to do this. Thankfully Naruto was quietly fuming at the moment, but that wouldn't last for too long. He had to say something and then make a break for it. Naruto, Hinata. He started, earning both of their undivided attention now. You are both to be placed together on a team with another student who graduated a year before you. Before he could continue he was interrupted by none other than the boy he was addressing. What the hell is this? Why are we being placed with someone not from our class? Before Iruka could explain, even Sasuke voiced up. That doesn't explain what is going to happen to me. Am I to be on a team by myself? Iruka couldn't help but notice the hint of hope in the sole surviving Uchiha's voice. Iruka rubbed his temples. Thank God this was it for a while. The two are actually related. Sasuke, you are to be taken by the other genin's teammates to meet with a new sensei for all of you. As he said this, a girl with twin buns and a pink Chinese garb knocked and walked in. Smiling politely she announced that she was there for Sasuke. Said boy got up and ambled over to the girl. As they walked out, Iruka heard something about chronically late sensei. Knowing if he had any hope for his head ever recovering, Iruka left too after wishing the remaining 2 students good luck. They were going to need it. To say Hinata felt relieved was an understatement. Not only was she still going to become a ninja, but she was now on the same team as Naruto. Nothing could have brought her down from this. Not even the disapproving glare that she received from her father. Which happened all too often. So what do you think our teammate and sensei will be like? Hinata gave a squeak and jumped away from the unexpectedly close voice. Naruto looked startled by her outburst, but his face then settled on what looked like an apologetic glance. Now he thinks I'm a scared, weak girl, she mused remorsefully. Why did she have to be so jumpy around him? I'm sure they a great ninja. I am interested to meet our teammate as well. As she spoke, she silently cursed her stutter. She summed up the courage to say more just when the door was kicked in and the glass on one of the windows shattered. Flying in from both ends were similar-looking men. Both of them clad in green spandex that made Hinata blush a little. The matching bowl cuts and thick bushes that appeared to be eyebrows weren't helping their appearance. Uzumaki Naruto. Hyuga Hinata. The names were shouted at the same time, Naruto's by the older and hers by the younger. And to her amazement she watched as they took odd poses and started introductions. My name is Rock Lee. I am pleased to meet my new teammates. May we share many youthful moments together. Mike Guy is my name, but you may call me Guy Sensei. I am your Jonin instructor and cannot wait to kindle your flames of youth. Naruto was speechless. That was a definite first. He had been so surprised that he had drawn a kunai. He now stood on his desk in a sloppy battle stance, but he could do nothing but open and close his mouth as he watched the performance. The kunai in his hand was long forgotten. Someone please tell me this is a joke. He all but whispered as they finished. First off, he was stuck with a quiet, weird girl and now two obnoxious psychopaths. The psychopath, with a Chunin vest, also happened to have good hearing. This is no joke, Naruto. Be prepared to be taught in the most youthful way possible. It begins now. Meet us at Training Ground 3. Just as he said it, they both disappeared in a green blur. Naruto couldn't believe it. Damn, that was fast. Naruto's face suddenly lit up. If they can teach me to do that, then this might not be so bad. Naruto quickly jumped down from the desk he was standing on and rushed out the window after them. Hinata looked around in shock in the now empty room. Then she slowly lowered her head sadly. They had left her behind. Hinata. She looked up in surprise to see Naruto leaning inside the window, scratching his head. Where is Training Ground 3 again? Hinata felt herself smile involuntarily. I'll show you. She got up and quickly began to descend the steps. You're the best, Hinata. The Hyuga heiress stumbled after Naruto's words processed in her mind. She managed to keep from falling, but a huge blush painted her face for a long time afterward. Lee arrived at the training ground just behind his sensei. He had put on the show his sensei expected, but he was torn. Lee did not know how to feel about this. It had been such a bombshell. They all met up at 7 in the morning like usual, after he and his sensei's 5 o'clock training, just for Guy Sensei to tell them they would no longer be a team. Lee didn't like Neji, but he was his eternal rival. What was Lee to do without him to challenge every day? Neji of course took the news coolly. He had thanked Sensei for everything and just took it at that. He didn't even protest. Tenten at least was tearful. She had asked if it was because Guy was disappointed in them in some way. Guy had assured him that he wasn't and that sometimes teams just had to split up. The team had eaten one last meal together after training before Tenten had given him and Sensei a wet hug before promising to keep in touch. Things were changing too fast and all at once. Lee didn't like it. Guy Sensei promised him though that he would come to like these new teammates of his. He said Naruto was much like himself and suffered a hard past. Hinata was meanwhile a sweet, innocent version of her cousin. Not that it made her any less deadly. At least, that's what Lee figured. What's done is done, Lee concluded as Naruto and Hinata slid into the clearing. He would make the best of this for Guy Sensei. Not to mention for himself. Naruto really couldn't believe it. These guys were like lightning. He hadn't seen them at all while trying to catch up, and when he arrived at the training ground it looked like they had been there for at least a minute. They stood straight and tall and had apparently caught their breath. They were real shinobi. He was going to learn how to do that now. What jutsu did you guys use to make you do that? He said, walking toward them, trying to mask his heavy breathing. Guy let out a boisterous laugh that made Naruto flinch slightly. We did not use any kind of jutsu, Naruto. Then how did you move so fast? The blonde asked, his breathing already recovered. Simple, my young student. Guy's voice rang across the whole clearing as he pulled out two strange objects. We used these. That's so awesome. Hey, what are those, Sensei? Naruto was about to burst with excitement. With a laugh, Guy explained. These are weights, Naruto. Naruto's excitement disappeared and a frown appeared on his face at Guy's answer. How are those supposed to help me get faster? They only sound like they're gonna slow me down. Lee cleared his throat to answer, but Guy stuck out his arm to silence him. I think I see a look of understanding in Hinata, Guy observed. Hinata gave a squeak and ducked her head. She was blushing furiously now. She was hoping no one would point her out since she still hadn't recovered her breath. How had her teammates done it so quickly? When she tilted her head up, Naruto and Guy were looking at her expectantly. Well, I think if you run with the increased W weight for a while, you build up better endurance. That way, when you take them off you feel lighter and are able to move faster. By the time she finished she had been speaking in little more than a whisper, but Naruto had managed to catch it all. Somehow. He began to nod his head quickly. Yeah, I get it, that's sweet. Give me all the weight you got, sensei. Naruto said, turning back to the green-clad man. Naruto felt an involuntary shiver at his sensei's tone. You should be considerate of your teammate. She will need some too. She is an invaluable asset to us now. As are you, of course. We must all work towards a common goal. Guy chided. Goal. Hinata managed to squeak out. Yes. Guy shouted, his loud voice returned. I shall strive to make all of you geniuses of hard work. Naruto and Hinata shared a confused look. Without needing a prompt, Guy jumped into his explanation. Geniuses are those born with natural talent. They hardly have to try and they succeed with ease. Sasuke in your class and Hinata's cousin and my former student Neji are considered geniuses. A scowl formed on Naruto's face at the mention of Sasuke while Hinata's lit up in realization. Geniuses of hard work, however, aren't as lucky. We have to work hard, train day in and day out to become the best we can be. In the end, though, it is worth it. We come out stronger because of our hardships and we stand above those who don't suffer the way we had to. We may not be as strong at first, but in the end we are superior. What you do with this newfound strength is up to you. However, I trust you to use it wisely. Guy shouted this last bit with his fist in the air and a leg up on some log that hadn't been there a moment ago. When he looked at Naruto and Hinata he saw what he wanted. There was determination. Even the shy Hyuga had appeared moved and he knew there was more than hope for her now. He would make them the best. Together with Lee, they would be an unstoppable force. It was too bad he still had one more test before they could truly become a team. Guy continued in a not as passionate shout, and so, we will begin by evaluating your skills. How are we gonna do that, sensei? Naruto asked with his hand held high in the air. Glad you asked. You are both going to spar against Lee. Your goal is to beat him using your flames of youth. Naruto was about to ask what he meant by flames of youth but decided against it. One passionate speech a day was his limit. Okay then, settle into your stances. Remember, aim to kill and hold nothing back. You won't be able to beat Lee any other way. Any questions? Naruto had died at the sound of a challenge. He licked his lips. This was going to be good. Hinata didn't know how to react. The only thought in her head was how everyone was going to see what a failure she was. The three Genins settled into their respective fighting stances, Hinata activating her Byakugan before doing so. Guy quickly saw the flaws in Naruto's stance. Not that they were hard to miss. It looked to Guy like the boy had never been shown a proper stance in his life. Which wouldn't have been a big surprise either. Hinata on the other hand showed perfection. He began to ponder how she could be disregarded by her clan with such a flawless stance but decided to wait until seeing more to judge. After all, he wasn't a hasty man. I should mention one more thing. If you fail to win, I'll have to send you both back to the academy. Guy laughed as Naruto and Hinata both turned to him in shock. What? Naruto yelled. That wasn't part of the bargain. He was supposed to have been out for sure. He had gone through too much to have this man tell him he would be going back. Guy smiled but didn't say anything more as he raised his arm in the air. He watched his genin tense. With a big intake of breath he let his arm drop and boomed. Ready, go. Naruto was off like a rocket. He was going to end this quick. He couldn't afford to be sent back. Lee had been caught off guard by Naruto's lack of hesitation and nearly didn't block a left hook aimed at the side of his head. Lee returned the punch but Naruto stepped back to avoid it. Naruto then jumped forward and launched a high kick at Lee, who blocked again. Spinning quickly with the force of the blow, Lee sent a kick at Naruto's midsection. Grinning, Naruto blocked it, only to be launched backwards into a tree about 20 yards away. Hinata stopped short. She had nearly been to Lee when he sent Naruto flying. Poor Naruto. She had planned to send a Yukin into Lee's back, but her slight hesitation gave him enough time to notice her. He quickly settled into what Hinata noted as a defensive stance. Of course, she realized, Lee was aware of her special attacks and was thus wary to be the one to approach. Taking a breath to steady herself, she inched closer. When Lee gave no reaction, she jumped at him. Lee noticed the movement and sprung backwards. Hinata pressed forward, swinging her Yukin steadily and fluidly. Just as she thought she might connect, he disappeared and was coming at her from the right now. Hinata ducked left of the punch at her face. Lee spun quickly again, aiming the same kick he had at Naruto. Hinata was prepared though. She bent almost completely backwards, dodging the powerful kick. She brought herself up quick and aimed a palm thrust at Lee's stomach. What she hadn't anticipated was Lee's elbow to completely deflect her blow, sending her chakra pointlessly into the air. Lee then proceeded to bring his knee up into Hinata's stomach, knocking the wind out of her and sending her rolling several feet away, where she lay completely still for several seconds. It wasn't pain that caused her to stay on the ground, but shock. Finally, she started to move. Slowly but surely she climbed to her feet while nursing her stomach. How could this happen? She had failed miserably, having a strike like that deflected. She could only take comfort in that Naruto had been sent flying too, but regretted the thought instantly. She had no more time for moping as Lee was on her again, his hesitation forgotten, swinging crazy kicks and swift punches. It was all Hinata could do to deflect or dodge them. But it was too late. With her confidence shattered, she couldn't fight back and was quickly subdued to a panting mess on the ground. Lee felt sorry for her. She was clearly nothing like her cousin. She had started off strong, but one good move from him and she fell apart. Lee sighed. This new team was definitely going to take some getting used to. Not that there would be a team if they didn't pull themselves together. Damn it all, that really hurt. Lee heard Naruto shout in the distance. I didn't want to have to do this to you, but you leave me no choice. Naruto formed a seal and shouted. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Lee felt his eyes blur with orange for a minute as he took in the spectacle. Nearly that whole half of the clearing was filled with clones. He grimaced as they charged, and he realized to his amazement that they were all solid. Guy had not expected this. Hinata's problem became quickly apparent to him. He was going to have to nip this confidence problem fast. Fortunately, Naruto seemed to have plenty to spare. While Guy himself also had confidence leaking off his body, he felt Hinata would take it better from Naruto. After all, her infatuation with him was clear as day. Naruto clearly had a reason to be confident. Guy had never seen so many clones in his life. Lee was now struggling not to be overwhelmed. Even his precious student had his limits. Winning became much more possible. Hinata watched as Lee danced away from the clones. They swung, screamed and kicked at the slightly frightened Genin as he ducked, rolled and threw in a punch wherever he could. But he was not being given a lot of room. However, there were also too many clones coming at once. More often than not, the clones ran into each other, popping themselves out of existence. The clones were clearly not coordinated at all, and Lee started to gain a small edge. Rolling clear of two clones as they collided into each other, Lee slipped 4 shuriken out of his back pouch and whipped them into the crowd, dispelling many clones. He then charged forward through the gap the shuriken had just created. Jumping up, he delivered a spinning kick into another Naruto who flew into more clones, dispelling them all. Hinata, can you stand? One clone said to her. The girl in question wasn't sure or not if she was in heaven or hell. Naruto was all around her and she was sure she was red as a tomato. Not trusting her voice, she nodded and slowing stood up. Guy sensei was stressing teamwork to me, and he's right, Naruto started. I don't know what you can do, but there has got to be something. Bushy brow over there is dropping my clones left and right. Naruto grimaced as one of his clones was hit in a nasty spot. Asking for help wasn't something he was used to, nor did he like it. However, it was clear that there was no way he was going to win this. Lee was starting to gain ground. I gotta help out. If you see an opening, take it, Naruto said while running into the fray before Hinata could protest. Lee was really smiling now. At first he had been scared, but this was turning out to be a great workout. Neji had never challenged Lee in a way like this, and the clones just seemed to keep coming. Lee felt one latch onto his back. Doing a back flip, he snagged the clone by the collar and whipped him at 3 more clones before landing in another group. With a spinning kick he dispelled 8 more. Lee was outright laughing now. This seemed to irk the clones as they attacked with renewed vigor. It didn't seem to make much difference. Lee quickly fell into a pattern. The more Naruto attacked, the more Lee realized it was systematic. One came from the front, followed by 2 from either side. After Lee rolled backwards, a clone was always waiting to intercept him. Lee would jump up from his roll and kick this one with both his feet. Spinning quickly, he would punch another clone just in his range. Then the cycle repeated. He kept it up at the same pace for a few minutes. Clone after clone kept coming. Clone after clone kept disappearing. Just as he thought the number of clones was dying out, he turned and threw a punch. Right into Hinata's outstretched palm. Lee yelped in pain as he felt his arm go numb. She had seen Lee repeat the same pattern over and over. So she placed herself right where she knew his fist would be. Not wasting the effort, Hinata stepped forward and landed another strike in his ribcage. Lee staggered and the clones were on him. Lee was knocked onto the ground. He was pinned and defeated. A loud clap echoed across the clearing as the clones began to pop out of existence. Well done, both of you, all of you. Guy shouted proudly to his students. I have not seen such a vibrant display of youth in a long time. Naruto gave a loud whoop. They had done it. It took a lot of energy and he was sweating profusely, but they had really done it. They would not be going back to the academy. Lee, with the clones off him, rose quickly to his feet and bowed before his sensei. Forgive me, Guy Sensei, I have failed and shall run 500 laps around Konoha in a handstand. Guy frowned. Lee, it was due to teamwork that you lost, not any inability. For not understanding this, I want you to do 1,000 chin-ups with one hand. Oh, thank you, Guy Sensei. Lee shouted. You are always so merciful, I shall get started immediately. Having said this, Lee took off to the nearest place to accomplish his task. Guy watched him, tears of happiness springing from his eyes. Naruto stared between the two but couldn't figure out what had just happened. Hadn't he just punished Lee? And yet the boy had seemed overjoyed at the thought. He looked to Hinata to see if she understood, but he noticed that she had a spacey look and doubted she even knew what had transpired. Why was he stuck with all the weirdos? Hinata had indeed not heard a word of anything. She was too stunned. She could never have pulled something like that off before. Yet when Naruto asked her to, she found that failure at that point would have been more than unacceptable, and she had done it. Together with Naruto, it was like all her dreams could come true now. She was brought out of her musing by Guy Sensei's hand on her shoulder. I'm proud of both of you. He started. I have seen a lot we need to work on, but fear not, we shall start early tomorrow. Lee and I start training at 5 in the morning. You are welcome to join us, but if you choose not to, I ask that you meet up here at 7. Naruto couldn't believe it. 5 in the morning. He asked for clarity. Guy nodded. Yes, it was necessary to get Lee to where he is today. As I said, he is a genius of hard work. While you may have beat him, bear in mind that Lee had his full weights on. As you may have noticed, Lee has very weak chakra and thus cannot perform ninjutsu or genjutsu. He is left with merely taijutsu. Even that was in poor shape when I discovered the young, orphaned boy doing extra training. But we have made this a strength to him. While he cannot perform a clone, he can now punch through solid rock. Naruto was miffed that Lee had been such a tough opponent while weighed down. Yet at the same time he now felt an odd level of closeness to him. Here was another genin like him who couldn't even do a simple clone. They were both even orphans. And now they were both under Guy Sensei's tutelage. Naruto knew right then that this team was right for him. They may have all been weirdos, but then again, wasn't he? Now moving on to our attire, while you were sparring I decided the amount of weights you would use without hurting yourselves. Naruto, here are yours and these are yours, Hinata. Guy said while handing his students the weights. Remember to wear these at all times, even while eating and sleeping. Don't take them off unless instructed by myself. He watched as they slipped them on and saw them nod at his instructions. Naruto's excitement and Hinata's shy smile. Guy knew it was time. You are ready, he shouted, noticing the confused looks between the genin. Ready to wear the most fashionable set of clothes in ninja history. As he shouted, he whipped out 2 smaller versions of the spandex suits worn by Lee and himself. Hinata couldn't help it. She visibly blanched. There was no way she was getting in that, and she could only take comfort that Naruto must be feeling the same way. Looking over, her face fell in completely horror. Naruto was looking at the spandex akin to how he gazed at Sakura. Hinata wasn't one to be about looks, since she wasn't much to look at, but she knew liking Naruto the way she did would be much harder if the boy was in that suit. She had to end this fast, but could she bring up the courage to tell her crush she didn't think he would look good in it? Would he even care? Stealing her resolve, Hinata spoke, I don't think I could be seen in something like that. Hinata started carefully. Naruto had now turned his eyes to her in disbelief. Hinata pressed on anyways. It would be frowned upon by my father if I returned dressed in that. Hinata didn't have a better word for it. I apologize if I offend you by refusing, but I cannot accept it. Hinata bowed politely when she finished. Guy for his part only nodded thoughtfully. This time Naruto cleared his throat. I guess I can't accept either, sensei. I wouldn't want to make Hinata feel left out in the group. It could, well you know, hurt teamwork, or something. Naruto didn't know why he did it. That outfit looked so cool there, blowing in the wind. No, don't look at it, must resist. Naruto also didn't expect Guy's reaction. The man broke into a smile too big for his face and too bright to not have been from the effect of some kind of light jutsu. Ah, Naruto, you learn so quickly. I am not at all hurt by your rejection, but am proud to see that you have taken what you've learned to heart. Naruto felt himself flush at Guy's praise. That is all for today, Hinata, enjoy the rest of your day. Naruto, come and walk with me. We have things to discuss. Now Naruto gulped as Hinata gave him a worried look. Fear not, you have not done anything wrong, I just have some advice to part on to you. Naruto nodded and turned to Hinata. I don't know about you, but I'll definitely be here at 5. I can't afford to fall behind you and bushy brow, he said enthusiastically. Hinata nodded quickly, her face once again red. I will also be here at 5. She just couldn't pass up the opportunity to be with him. No matter how early. Naruto and Guy smiled at her before she turned around and began the walk home. She still couldn't believe the good luck of being on Naruto's team. She would just have to make sure he kept away from that spandex. She didn't know what to make of Guy Sensei and Lee yet. They were different, and yet they seemed so much like Naruto-kun. So she supposed she could really get to like them. She was stuck with them after all. Guy watched her walk a while, his smile still big and bright. Naruto considered asking him how he did that when the man turned to him, his expression suddenly grim. He had obviously waited for Hinata to get out of earshot. I wanted to discuss something serious with you, Naruto. Naruto couldn't help it. He gulped. The seriousness on the man's face was uncharacteristic. Naruto wondered where it came from. Maybe the man was better at faking his smiles than even himself. What do you mean? Damn, he was picking up Hinata's stuttering habit. He was going to have to turn that around. Tell me, Naruto, what is your dream? Naruto sighed with relief. This was easy. You mean you haven't heard? I am going to become the greatest Hokage this village has ever had. That way no one will be able to look down on me and disrespect me anymore. So you want people to see you as yourself and not the fox? Naruto was pulled out of his dreamland at the mention of the thing that ruined his life. His face grew much more serious. Being Hokage is the only way to get him to realize I want to protect them, not destroy them. It is the only way to truly become me. Naruto said. An oddly dark look settled on his face. That is not true, Naruto. What of Iruka? What of myself? We see you as you, not the fox. Naruto looked surprised when Guy included himself, but Guy continued before he could interrupt him. I guarantee you Lee and Hinata will also see you as who you are when they find out the truth. They won't find out, Naruto said quickly. I'll never let it happen. What if you're wrong? I would lose the team I just finally got. That really slows down my Hokage plans. Naruto was shouting now. I'm just saying be prepared for possibility of them finding out. Missions are dangerous. You never know when its chakra may show itself. Guy said, still calm. Besides Naruto, don't fear, I will never let this team fall apart. We are inseparable from today onwards. Naruto's look of shock returned only to be replaced by what appeared to be tiered happiness. Guy couldn't stand being this serious, time to be more youthful. So remember Naruto, I expect to see your fire burning bright tomorrow morning. Lee and I will not take it easy on you. His big, bright smile returned. Naruto wiped his eyes and matched Guy with a smile just as big. Don't worry, I'll have you and Lee run ragged in no time. My flame will drown out the sun's on my way to become Hokage. After saying this, Naruto swore he felt his own smile start to glow slightly. That was definitely something to look into. It was late at night again. Guy now stood atop a water tower in a handstand while waiting for his youthful, chronically late rival. It had been 2.5 hours, so it had to be about time. As expected, Kakashi popped up in the smaller tower next to him, his nose deep in his book. My eternal rival. Tell me what you thought of my old charges. Guy boomed while jumping back into a normal standing position. Kakashi summed it up quickly, apparently eager to be gone. It went well. I was particularly surprised by the girl's accuracy. The Hyuga kid is also astounding. With them so far ahead, it will be easy for me to focus on Sasuke. The only thing I'm concerned about is that Hyuga boy's temper. Guy frowned at this. What do you mean? The kid shut down Sasuke's tenketsu when he made a remark about him being a lowly branch member of a clan. The girl had been friendly enough at first, but that comment seemed to set her on edge too. Teamwork is going to be the toughest part in a group of geniuses. Kakashi sighed out the last bit. Guy nodded. He knew of Neji's complex. But to beat the Uchiha survivor to a pulp was taking it far. They would just have to work it out themselves. They weren't his to help anymore after all. But something was still bugging him about what Kakashi had said. Did you really just want to trade so you could focus on Sasuke? Being able to focus on teaching him how to properly use his Sharingan was part of it, but not the only reason. Kakashi kept his nose in the bright orange book. Guy stared hard at the man for a moment. It would seem Kakashi wasn't telling him everything, but Guy found it impossible to read him. So what about you? Kakashi asked, ripping Guy from his thoughts. Standing up straight, Guy took a deep breath. It's going to be fantastic to finally know what is behind that mask. Crap. Naruto shouted while sprinting through the village. He was late. Not that this was unusual, but he actually wanted to be on time for his new team. After all, he told them he would willingly do it. He even made sure Hinata was coming. The training ground came into sight, and with a final burst of speed and the help of a little chakra, Naruto rocketed into the clearing. He skidded to a halt just in front of his sensei and teammates with mixed reactions. Hinata had the decency to be embarrassed for him. Lee actually looked visibly sick, like the thought of missing even a second of training was blasphemous. Guy's smile was definitely unexpected. Then again, maybe not. He was always smiling. Naruto. Guy's voice seemed even louder so early in the morning. It brings joy my heart to see your youth burning so brightly in the morning. It even takes Lee a few morning stretches before he can move that fast. But I'm late. Naruto began rather lamely. Not a problem. Guy stopped Naruto before he could continue. I think we can forgive you this once. Just don't make a habit of it. Punctuality is important after all. Naruto began to wonder if his sensei cared at all that he was most likely waking people up. Probably not. The eccentric man probably thought of it as doing him a youthful favor. Now let's get started with the training. Naruto, I would like you to work with Lee on your taijutsu stance. Listen well to what he says. He isn't called a genius of hard work for nothing. Hinata and I shall be working over here. We will trade off in about an hour. This way, Naruto. Lee gestured the blonde to the far side of the field and started walking there himself. Naruto had been right. Lee was not having a good morning. Why couldn't it be the same? The mornings when it was just him and Guy Sensei doing handstands around the village or scaling the Hokage monument with their weights doubled. These new guys had also been given weights. Weights were his thing. Why couldn't they have been like Neji and Tenten? At least they hadn't come wearing spandex. That would have been too much. Thinking of Neji reminded Lee of what Hinata did this morning. She was so much different than her cousin. She had come in even before Lee had and had only mumbled a quiet, hello, that had been completely covered by Guy's greeting. The only reason he knew she said anything at all was the fact that her mouth had moved. That didn't upset Lee though. That would have been silly. Guy Sensei had frowned when Naruto hadn't shown up on time. I guess we should get started without him. He had then turned to them to explain the morning when. Hinata interrupted him. It hadn't been much. Just a quiet and hasty, wait. But Guy Sensei looked so surprised that she had spoken out that he let her continue. I think we should wait for Naruto-kun. He will definitely be here soon. In that last sentence she actually sounded sure of herself. Lee was abashed. Had she really just told Guy Sensei to wait on training? Even more to his astonishment, Guy Sensei listened. He was even smiling. Like her speaking out had been some small victory. It only made Lee feel worse when Guy's smile grew bigger as Naruto shot into the training ground. Earth to bushy brow, Naruto said, waving his hand in Lee's face. Lee slapped it away. What is it? He snapped before quickly regretting it. This was a most unyouthful showing he was giving. Looking around, Lee realized they were where Guy Sensei instructed him to be. Naruto got an annoyed look on his face. Don't yell at me. You were staring off into space since we got here. I thought Sensei told you to help me with my stance. Get in it then, Lee said before Naruto could go further. He waited but Naruto only stared at Lee, confused. Your fighting stance. Lee sighed. Recognition dawned on Naruto as he proudly slipped into it. Gotacha, why didn't you say so in the first place? So, what's wrong with it? Everything. Naruto lost his balance. He got up quickly while sputtering questions. What the hell do you mean everything? Wasn't I doing fine yesterday like that? Are you just upset Guy Sensei had you work with me instead of you? Enough, Lee finally shouted. Look, I am sorry about before. I am a little upset with the way I suddenly lost two of my teammates, but please listen to me. I did not say that everything was wrong to be mean. Everything was wrong though. Please re-enter the stance and I will help you. Naruto stared at Lee for a second. He definitely seemed sincere. Maybe he was also being a little out of line. Lee knew what he was doing after all. The whipping he gave his clones was proof of that. I'm sorry too. I just say things without thinking. I'm glad that you're helping me. Having said that, Naruto slipped back into his fighting stance. Okay, first bring your legs closer together, you are standing too wide. Yeah, that is good. Bring this arm down here, right in front of you. Now, stick this one out. Do not grip so hard, you will only hurt yourself when you punch. As Lee droned out his instructions, he moved around Naruto, pointing to his flaws, moving him slightly when necessary, and showing him his own stance. Okay, that is good. Now hold it there for a minute or two. Let yourself get comfortable in it. Naruto did as instructed and without complaints either. Iruka would have cried tears of happiness at this attentive Naruto. The reason for Naruto's silence though was his own shock. A teacher at the academy specifically showed Naruto to stand that way. Naruto might have thought Lee was lying to him if it wasn't for the fact that the more Lee corrected, the more natural Naruto began to feel. Like it was the way it was supposed to be. What now? Naruto asked, still in the stance. Good, good, I want you to run a lap around the training ground. Seeing the question forming on Naruto's lips, Lee held up his hand. Trust me, it will help you. Naruto shrugged. Lee had been right so far. So he took off running. When he got back, he looked at Lee expectantly. Now what, we gonna spar, are you and me gonna race? Lee held up with hand again and Naruto fell silent. Lee was going to have to remember that it seemed to work. I want you to assume the stance I just showed you. He held up his hand before Naruto's protest even began. Naruto got into it as instructed, mumbling the whole time. Lee watched him intently for a moment before saying, much better, but you have a couple problems again. Lee pointed the problem spots back out again. Stand there for another minute. When you are ready, take another jog around the training ground. Once you get back, get into your stance. I will correct you again. We will do this until you get it right 3 times in a row. Naruto couldn't contain it anymore. 3 times. Why the hell are we doing it like this? Let's just spar and I'll figure it out as W. Lee held up his hand. Be glad it is me and not Guy Sensei you are doing this with. He would have you get it correct 100 times before he let you move on. You think I like this? I am wasting my youth. I would like to spar and train too. But until you get this right, we cannot do that. Lee's voice had gotten louder as he talked. He had to take a breath. Was this how Neji always felt about him? He regretted the thought. Was he becoming like Neji? Surely not. Neji lacked so much youth. Lee wouldn't let it happen. Naruto ripped him out of his trance when he took off running down the training ground again. Lee was about to shout to him when he noticed Naruto was running the edge of the clearing, just as he had instructed. Lee continued to give Naruto a curious look as he got back and began to settle into his stance. You were right, Naruto said without meeting his eyes. I know I'm making this difficult and you probably want your old team back, but please give me a while. I've never had someone give me one-on-one training before, so I'm new at it. I'd like us to get along though. Lee couldn't help it. He got a little teary. What would Guy Sensei say if he saw how low his flame had dimmed today? He had to fix this fast. Wiping his eyes, he gave Naruto his biggest smile. Yosh. Fear not, Naruto. You shall have this down in no time. Our flames shall burn brightly together and we will show the world a sparring match unseen to this world. That was more like it. Guy and Hinata started out much differently than Naruto and Lee had. Before we begin, I would like to talk about some things. Guy started, looking down at Hinata, who stood straighter when he began talking. Guy waited for her to give a nervous nod before continuing. I am not a man to mince words. Some of what I say may seem harsh, but I don't mean it to be in such a way. I am trying to help you. Guy had a feeling that Hinata wasn't foreign to harsh words though. A feeling that made him slightly sick to his stomach. He watched as Hinata nodded again, her posture slouching ever so slightly. I was your cousin, Neji's sensei, just before I was yours. That boy was a true genius. I wouldn't be surprised if he stood higher in strength than your father someday. Hinata's head whipped up at that last comment. Stronger than father. Did he have any idea the rage her father would have gone into if he heard that? He might activate Neji's seal just on principle. She was about to protest when she noticed the look in Guy's eyes. Hinata knew she wasn't the best at reading people, but she knew this look. He was expecting something. Maybe he expected her to be just as strong. He was going to be sorely disappointed. Guy frowned, but only for a second. This one was perceptive. When she had spoken up against him earlier, he had been proud that she had said something. Her confidence was showing its way through. It seemed that confidence came and went with Naruto though. He had a lot of work to do. Might as well let her know, he just said he didn't mince words after all. Hinata wondered what was with the silence. When she looked back up, he was still smiling. However, here it came, a complete list of her failures as a person and that he was disappointed in her. Quote. Have major confidence issues, but other than that your stance is nearly perfect. You strike well and know when it is wise to make a retreat. Hinata again snapped her neck up. It was going to snap right off if she kept doing that. Did she just hear him right? Surely he was confusing her with her younger sister, Hanabi. Before she had a chance to correct him, however, Hinata, assume your stance. We are going to have a light spar. Come at me with everything you got. Don't feel bad when you can't get me. I am a Jonin after all. Guy laughed aloud at his attempt of a joke. Hinata couldn't even bring herself to smile nervously. When Guy stopped laughing, he continued. I will only block and dodge. This is about constantly attacking and not losing your nerve. I know you will do me proud. Done talking, Guy settled into his fighting stance. He watched Hinata take a few calming breaths before settling herself into her stance. Like last time, it was perfect. How could this girl give herself so little credit? What had that family done to her? Guy mentally shook his head. His youth was better spent fixing what the family destroyed. Not wondering how. Anyways, now wasn't a good time to think. She was coming. Hinata charged straight at her sensei. He brought his elbow up and blocked a Juken strike to side. Just like Lee did last night. She faltered, her eyes lingering on the dissipating chakra. Don't look at it. Next attack. Guy said sternly, since shouting probably wasn't the best thing for her right now. Not that it mattered. Her stance loosened and her attacks lost their ferocity. Guy wanted to tell her stop. But that would just give her time to mope and think about if he was disappointed in her. Then an idea struck him. Dodging to the right from another paw swing, he put it so her back was to Naruto. Now was the time to hatch his plan. What is Naruto doing watching us? He is wasting his youth by not training as I instructed him. His idea worked. Hinata stopped and tensed. Then she launched herself back at Guy with attacks more fierce than even her very first. Guy almost laughed out loud as he jumped over a sweeping kick meant to trip him. The pressure of being watched by her crush was working. Even mentioning his name seemed to tremendously boost her confidence. Now he had to find out how to get her this way all the time. She could be better than Neji if she just had the confidence. In his musing, he failed to notice Hinata jump back. But she was charging again anyways. Guy brought his elbow up to block another attack, only for the attack not to come. A feint, Guy realized with great surprise. He didn't even notice, and now she was inside his guard. Normally that kept people from performing powerful attacks, but it was just perfect for her Yukon. Guy launched himself backwards, but it was too late. She landed an open palm right into his stomach. This wasn't his first time getting hit by such an attack, and Guy doubted it would be his last. But it always surprised him how much it hurt. He did his best not to grimace outwards and instead showed a huge grin. Hinata had a look of sheer terror. She couldn't believe she had hit Sensei. She had wanted to apologize, but something about his smile stopped her. It was strange. She knew that smile, but from where? Pride. Some part in the back of her mind whispered to her. A look she had only ever seen given to her sister. Sensei was proud of her. How could he be though? She had struck him with her Yukon. You look confused, Hinata. Why is this? Guy was back to his usual booming voice. Sensei, I hit you. You aren't upset. Guy let out a big laugh, and he was sure that if Hinata could shrink into her jacket like a turtle, she would have. Upset. Don't you remember what I said? I didn't expect you to hit me. This means you've shot past my expectations. You are truly a worthy student, Hinata. If Naruto had actually been watching, he would have been astonished by the brightness of your flame. The realization of what he said must have set in on her face, because Guy was now giving her a look akin to a child who was caught with his hand in a cookie jar. Had been watching? Hinata finally asked. Not important. Guy dismissed. Now get back into your stance. We are going to work on defense. It took Naruto nearly 40 minutes to get the stance right 3 times in a row, but he had done it. Finally, Naruto yawned out. He almost forgot it wasn't even 6 yet. So now we finally get to spar. Of course not. Naruto stumbled again at Lee's enthusiastic response. But you said once we had my stance down. Naruto stomped his feet, pouting. The stance is only the first part of combat. Surely you did fighting drills at the academy. When Naruto nodded, Lee continued. Well, that is what is next. Drills teach you the basics and are the foundation for more powerful taijutsu forms. Now watch me. Lee settled into the fighting stance Naruto and he had been working on. He then slowing went through a rhythm of punches and kicks. When done, he settled back into the stance. Now mimic me, Naruto. I will do it with you the first few times. Naruto found he couldn't argue. If this was what it took to learn awesome and powerful moves, then he could handle it. Naruto settled into his stance and began to follow Lee as he moved through the rotation. Strangely, Naruto found it oddly relaxing. After about the 4th one, Lee stopped. He watched closely now as Naruto moved about what he was shown. If Naruto made a mistake, Lee would point it out, and the next time through Naruto would have it fixed. They did this until they heard Guy Sensei and Hinata approaching. Excellent, Naruto. That is all for now. Lee shouted. He then turned to Guy Sensei. Naruto stopped what he was doing and also turned to face him. Guy seemed to nod in approval. I take it you made good progress, Lee. Yes, Naruto's stance is perfect now. I did exactly as you instructed, and we were working on the first drill for the remaining time. Guy nodded again. Very good. We shall switch now. I will teach Naruto some more for a while. Meanwhile, I want you and Hinata to spar. After each round, I want the 2 of you to discuss what you think you and the other did wrong, but more importantly, what you did right. Guy gave a meaningful glance at Hinata as he spoke the last bit. She barely managed to hold his eye contact. It was an improvement, not much of one, but Guy was taking victories where he could. Let us go, Naruto. Guy turned to walk away. Naruto nodded and started after him. Wait, Naruto. Lee called. When Naruto turned to listen, Lee spoke. I know we did not start out right today, but I am glad to have someone so full of youth on my team. Naruto nodded. Yeah, thanks for being so patient with me, bushy brow. I feel like I'm already a lot closer to becoming Hokage with just what you showed me. With one last big grin, Naruto set off after Guy. Lee was shocked. He dreams of becoming Hokage. He hadn't meant to ask to anyone in particular, so when Hinata answered, he gave a small jump. If Hinata noticed him jump, she did not show it. Naruto-kun trains very hard all the time. He was the dead last of our year, but it definitely wasn't his fault. No one ever took notice of him though. The only way he got anyone to look at him was by pulling pranks. It was so sad for me to see him that way, but he has overcome every obstacle. It isn't just a dream for him. He will be Hokage. Her eyes stayed on Naruto's back the whole time. Lee was speechless. He had hardly heard this girl say 2 meek words. Now she had firmly stated an entire paragraph about Naruto. Either Guy Sensei's youth had broken through to her already or there was something else afoot. Looking back and forth between her and Naruto, he realized it was the latter. Hinata turned and saw Lee staring. It then seemed to register what she had just done. Her face became red and she was immediately looking down while mumbling apologies. So Naruto was the dead last. Lee said thoughtfully, ignoring Hinata when she looked up in surprise. It is funny. I was the dead last in my year. It is like we have a team of failures gathered, is that not it? It was kind of funny. Hinata had just had similar thoughts herself. At least, Lee continued, that is what I would say if I was feeling unconfident or my flames had dimmed. Instead I say we look to the future and do our best with hard work. Lee pumped his fists in the air. His eyes were ablaze. Hinata couldn't help it. She smiled slightly. Where did her teammates pull their confidence from? I think we should do what Guy Sensei requested of us. If only it could rub off onto her. Yosh. Excellent idea. Let us engage in youthful combat. Lee settled into his fighting stance as he spoke. Hinata ran through the seals to activate her Byakugan and then settled into her stance. Ready, go. Lee shouted. Hinata just stood there. Guess expecting a charge from you would be as. Lee was cut off as Hinata lunged at him. Crap. Lee thought, ducking low. He jumped backwards but upon landing immediately launched himself forward. He had planned to catch Hinata off guard. Instead she blocked his solid punch with her forearm. She returned fire with a chakra enhanced one of her own. Lee jumped back again, avoiding the attack. Guy Sensei has already begun to bring out your youth. Lee didn't let her lunge while he was talking catch him off guard this time. He knocked the Yukan aside. Hinata stumbled just a little but it was enough. Lee dropped low and brought his legs around in a sweep. It landed perfectly and Hinata was sent painfully to her backside. The whole exchange had lasted less than a minute. Right. Positives and negatives. Lee plopped to the ground cross-legged. Start with me and then move on to yourself. Also, do not be afraid of offending me. Knowing your weaknesses is the best way to improve after all. Hinata lifted herself into a sitting position to match Lee. With some hesitation she began. Why you were very fast and your punches did quite a bit of damage even when I was blocking. That leg sweep you performed was perfectly timed. Hinata paused. Negatives. Lee repeated. Why you were predictable in your lunges. You also lose focus when you speak. When I blocked you took an extra second to recover. It all tumbled out of Hinata's mouth quickly and her face flushed with embarrassment. Before she could apologize Lee stopped her. Good, now yourself. Hinata seemed to think hard for a second before starting. I stumbled at. Positives first. When Hinata looked like she was about to protest Lee again interrupted. While knowing your weaknesses is good, not working on your strengths can have equally disastrous results. That was one of the first lessons taught to me by Guy Sensei. Lee stared at Hinata as she seemed to consider his words. I took the first opening I noticed. Hinata finally started. I was also able to block your punch. Excellent. Lee jumped to his feet. Now let us go again. But, Lee held up his hand. It seemed to work on more than just Naruto. I am sure you know what you did wrong. We will discuss it after our next round. Now come. Lee motioned her forward with his hand. Naruto, tell me what you know of ninja teams. This was not what Naruto had expected. Some awesome move training. Maybe a sweet teleportation jutsu. But not a lesson on teams. Still, Naruto didn't want to risk getting Guy Sensei's disappointed voice again. It was truly something that could give him nightmares. Yes, Sensei. I know teamwork is important. Naruto was proud of himself. He had remembered yesterday's lesson. Good. Now what else? What else? Naruto repeated. Damn, how am I supposed to know about these things? Why does it matter anyways? As Naruto wondered these things he searched his brain for an answer. Miraculously, one came. They operate in teams of 4. Naruto more asked than answered. Correct. Guy gave Naruto a thumbs up. Now tell me, how many clones can you create? What the hell was with these questions? At least this one was easy. Hundreds. Naruto folded his arms proudly. Good. From now on you will only ever have 3 out at a time. Guy almost thought Naruto hadn't heard him for a second. In fact, Guy wasn't sure Naruto was even breathing at that moment. Guy cleared his throat to continue when Naruto erupted. What the hell do you mean 3 clones? Do you know how low of a number that is? Maybe you didn't hear me, but I said hundreds. Why should I limit myself? Doesn't that go against all your flames of youth talk? Naruto was panting hard now. His anger subsiding slightly now that he'd expressed himself. There is the response I was waiting for. Naruto looked at Guy curiously. It's easier to explain when I know exactly what questions you have about my instructions. Guy stated simply. So I'll go in order. Guy took a deep breath and then began to fire off answers. I meant 3 clones because that will make 4 of you in total, the same number we use for ninja teams. I am very capable of counting to 3, I am a Jonin after all. I did in fact hear you say hundreds, but that it's a waste of chakra. Yesterday, when sparring against Lee, you had more clones running into each other before they could even get to him. While it is true that you didn't give Lee much room to fight, the same could also be said for your clones. Not using your full power is not restricting your youthfulness in any way. It is in fact preserving it. If you are engaged in combat with another ninja and he thinks 3 clones is your limit, imagine how surprised he would be when a 4th clone snuck up on him. In the ninja world, surprises can kill. Naruto flinched at that last statement. Any more questions? When Naruto shook his head, Guy continued, not winded at all from his long talk. Excellent, because I have more for you. Naruto only grimaced. Tell me, Naruto, what ninja art do you think I specialize in? Guy pointed dramatically to himself. Taijutsu. Naruto had been apprehensive about more questions, but if they were like this it wouldn't be too bad. So, what do you expect to learn from me? Guy was now pointing at Naruto. Taijutsu. Naruto said a little louder this time. Excellent. Now what kind of taijutsu do you think I'm going to teach you? Guy had moved his hands to his hips in what appeared to be a heroic pose. Kinds of taijutsu. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Good question. There are many kinds of fighting styles and ways for ninjas to take down their opponents. Lee and I specialize in Goken. We use our superior strength and speed to crush our opponents into the ground. Hinata, like all Hyuga, are a little more discreet. They use Yuken. That is attacking with your open palms and sending chakra into your opponent. They can do nasty things such as damage organs, disrupt your chakra and even stop it altogether. Naruto was wide-eyed. Hinata, you mean the one on our team can do that? Guy nodded. Shorken, better not make her mad. But we're diverging away from the point. I'll re-ask my question. What kind of taijutsu do you think I'm going to teach you? Here's a hint. Think back to the questions I asked you first. Naruto thought for a minute before answering. You're going to teach me how to fight with my clones. Nice going, Naruto. Guy smiled down at his student. Now one more question. Why do you think I am asking you all this instead of just telling you? I'd been wondering that myself the whole time. Naruto admitted sheepishly. Guy laughed at this. It is because you need to learn to think for yourself, Naruto. You show signs of being an excellent fighter, but you lack the ability to think things through. I am going to help you with strategy. Your clones will be all about teamwork and utilizing them to the most. Now tell me, what could you and 3 clones accomplish together in combat that you couldn't by yourself? Easy, we could attack him from all sides at the same time. He'd never see it coming. Naruto nodded proudly to himself. This is what I mean, Naruto. Guy's words interrupted Naruto's self-appreciation. You only think of the most obvious things. You don't look underneath the underneath. Your clones could do so much more. If you were in the air and kunai were flying at you and with no other way to dodge, a clone could grab you and throw you out of the way. You could also use your clones to get higher by jumping off of them. This would give your opponent an unexpected aerial attack. You could have clones brace you from a nasty fall or intercept a hit for you. The options with your clones are limitless. The more Guy spoke, the more stupid Naruto was starting to feel. How could there have been so many things and yet he could only come up with one? Guy seemed to pick up on what Naruto was thinking. Don't feel bad, Naruto, it isn't your fault. It is my job as your teacher to make sure you now get the proper training, and this is part of it. I promise you'll be good at it. Guy-sensei, thank you. Naruto didn't know what else to say. Few people had ever been willing to work this much with him. Iruka-sensei would have if he didn't have 30 others kids to teach as well, but now he had a sensei who could spend the time. Think nothing of it, as I told you before, you are my student. Now, produce some clones and we will get to work. Right. Naruto formed the familiar seal and 6 clones popped into existence. Naruto and Guy both frowned. Strange, I thought I was only using enough to do 3. No matter. Guy waved it off. Pop 3 out and I'll have you work on chakra control later. Ashamed, Naruto did as his sensei said. So, how are you going to teach me? Guy walked over to Naruto. Easy, with practice. He then grabbed him by the collar and whipped him into the air. What the hell? Naruto was easily 30 feet up. Remember, the examples I used, have your clones brace you. The clones, who had been shocked with surprise, sprung into motion, running to get under Naruto. They made it just in time as Naruto crashed down into them. Good. Now on to our next lesson. Naruto groaned. This was going to be painful. Sure enough it was. But Naruto had to admit, it was also fascinating. Using his clones in so many unique ways was really something else. Soon enough though, the hour came to an end and Guy called for a stop. Good work today, Naruto. Tomorrow, we shall put what you learned into practice with a light spar. So remember everything I taught you, you never know what you might need to use. Now let's go get those teammates of yours. Hinata was exhausted. Lee seemed to have nearly limitless energy. While all the constantly getting up and sitting back down had worn her nearly completely out, Lee still looked ready for more. They were just getting up for another round when Guy and Naruto approached. One rotation left, my youthful charges. Lee, you are with me now. Hinata, I assume you know how to do the tree walking exercise. Hinata nodded. Good. I want you to teach Naruto. The boy needs serious help with chakra control and you are just the one to teach it to him. Me. Hinata flushed instantly. Yes, with your Byakugan and already astute chakra control, I can think of no one better. Guy had struck another thumbs up pose. Naruto was at a complete loss. He looked back and forth between his sensei and Hinata. Finally he couldn't take it anymore. Hey, what's this tree walking thing you're talking about? Hinata is your partner this hour, Naruto. Ask her and I'm sure she'll tell you. Meanwhile, Lee and I have our own youthful agenda to get to. With that, Guy and Lee bounded to the other side, leaving Naruto alone with Hinata. So, Naruto began, what is this whole tree climbing thing you guys were talking about? It is W walking up trees W with your feet. Hinata barely managed to squeak out, her face getting redder. Naruto was oblivious. Really? Like without using your hands? That's awesome, I can't believe you already know how to do that. Hinata couldn't believe it, Naruto had just called her awesome. I was taught by my family, it was necessary to work on chakra control. I get it. You need good chakra control to do those cool punches you do, huh? Man, your family must be so sweet. Naruto nodded proudly to himself, having figured it out. Yeah, sweet. Hinata barely whispered. Sensing they were approaching an uncomfortable topic, Naruto changed the conversation. So, show me how to do this tree walking. Hinata only nodded and they walked over to the trees. When they got there, Hinata began to explain. All you have to do is focus your chakra into the soles of your feet. Having said this, Hinata began to climb up the tree. Too much chakra and you launch off, too little and you just slip down. Hinata was now standing upside down on a branch. That is so awesome, my turn, my turn. Naruto ran up to the tree. He jumped up and stuck his feet to the tree, and was instantly launched backwards. He crashed painfully to the ground. Naruto-kun. Hinata somewhat shouted. She jumped down from the tree and ran over to him. Are you okay? Yeah, no problem, too much chakra, huh. I'll get it this time. He was up and running at the tree again. A few seconds later and he was right back in the same spot on the ground. OWW, he groaned out. Wait, Naruto-kun. Hinata got out. He turned to look at her and she almost forgot what she was going to say. Before you go again I will watch you. If I think you are using too much chakra I will let you know. You can see my chakra. Naruto was learning a lot today, that was for sure. Why yes, my Byakugan gives me 360-degree vision, and lets me see another's chakra. Hinata wasn't sure she was supposed to be sharing this information so lightly, but it was her teammate. Surely her father couldn't protest. Man, the more I learn about you the cooler you are, Hinata. Naruto gave her a big smile. Hinata. The girl in question had gone stock still. She had no doubt in her head that she was redder than a tomato. She probably had steam coming out of her ears too. Naruto-kun had just said he thought she was really cool. This day was too good to be true. Surely she was dreaming. She was going to wake up any second now and it would still be the day of the team placements. Hinata. Hey, snap out of it, I didn't mean to offend you. Naruto's words finally seemed to reach her as she shook her head. Thank goodness, I thought you were gonna pass out. Do you need a doctor? Hinata shook her head quickly. We should get to work before Guy-sensei yells at us. Hinata pretty much gasped out. Naruto frowned but nodded. He stood up and walked over to the tree. Tell me if it is too much. Naruto then started to gather his chakra. Hinata activated her Byakugan and gasped at what she saw. And Naruto-kun, you are using far too much chakra. I am. Damn. And I'm using like half of what I did before. Why is this so hard for me? Naruto focused more and began to drop the amount he was using. Hinata thought hard for a moment. She then decided to risk asking a question. And Naruto-kun, how is it that you have so much chakra? And not even my father has as much as you. Hinata instantly regretted the question. Naruto dropped his gathered chakra altogether and went very still. Is that so? Naruto gave a nervous chuckle. I must just be really awesome then. I mean, the future Hokage needs a lot of chakra, right? Hinata nodded quickly. Why yes, that makes sense. She couldn't help but feel even worse when Naruto's face showed total relief. He then went back to channeling his chakra. Hinata once again focused on Naruto's chakra. Lower, lower, she kept repeating. After several seconds she finally said, stop. Naruto, silently, so as not to break his concentration, began walking on the tree again. This time, instead of launching off, he actually stood in place. With another hesitant step, Naruto began walking up the tree. Hey, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. Naruto-kun. Hinata's shout came too late. In his excitement, Naruto let more chakra through and he was promptly launched from the tree again. Hinata was next to him the second he hit the ground. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, Sorry for what? Naruto cut her off. Did you see how high I got? Let's go again, with your help I'll get this in no time. Naruto shakily returned to his feet and walked back over to the tree. Hinata couldn't bring herself to stop him. So what do you think of your new teammates? Guy asked, blocking a spinning kick from Lee. Naruto-kun is most youthful. Lee sidestepped a punch. Returning a punch of his own, he kept talking. You were right. Hinata is much different from Neji. Although this is a good thing. I think they both have potential to become just like us, sensei. Yes, they will definitely become geniuses of hard work, just like you. Guy grabbed Lee's fist and then threw Lee into the air. Lee flipped over and managed to land gracefully on his feet. He then launched back at his sensei with a low kick. Yes, I see they accepted your weights. They will improve fast with those. Guy jumped over Lee's kick and brought his own foot down towards Lee's head. Your voice betrays you, Lee. You are jealous. But fear not, they will not advance with the weights nearly as fast as you did. The weights are simply to give them just a little more speed. They will not need to be as fast as you. They have their own styles. Lee rolled out of the way, jumping up as he kicked high this time. Guy-sensei, I am sorry to have doubted you. I should not have thought in such a manner. Lee, it is okay. I could never stay mad at you. Guy ducked the kick. He then launched at Lee with both arms open. Lee mimicked his sensei and they ended up in a tight embrace. Tears streamed down both their eyes. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. What the hell are they doing over there? Naruto asked. He was dusting himself off from another nasty fall. Hinata only shrugged. We got some real weirdos on our team. But you know, I like them. They mean well for us. I feel the same. Hinata whispered. I was thinking, Naruto started. I feel kinda bad that we turned down Guy-sensei's spandex, but maybe we could go out later today and buy some new clothes. We could get something green to match them. Only if you want though, I'm not good at clothes shopping myself, so it would help a lot if you came with me. Hinata was again wondering if this day was just a dream. She had at first been afraid Naruto was about to suggest they try the spandex. But instead, he asked her to go shopping with him. It was almost like a date. Hinata wanted to thank whatever God had put her on a team with those two who were still screaming each other's names. Is that a no, then? Naruto wasn't sure how else to take Hinata's silence. She almost seemed afraid of him at times. Maybe she knew about his prisoner. I'd be happy to go with you. Hinata shook Naruto out of his thoughts now. Really? Awesome. When sensei excuses us for the day we could just head out together then. Hinata nodded her head vigorously. She had almost let the chance go. Naruto gave his sensei and older teammate one last look. Anyways, let's get back to work. Hinata kept on nodding. The hour passed quickly and Naruto nearly had the tree walking down by the time Guy and Lee came over. That is all the training for this morning. The sun that was now peeking over the trees illuminated Guy's smile. You are allowed an hour break. Use this to eat breakfast and wash up. Meet me in front of the Hokage Tower, and don't be late. He gave Naruto a meaningful smile at the last comment. Dismissed. Guy vanished in a swirl of leaves. The three genin looked at each other. Well, I'm gonna run to Ichiraku's, there's a bowl of ramen with my name on it. Naruto sped off without a second glance at his teammates. Lee looked after him. Quite youthful indeed. He mumbled to himself. I am returning home, Hinata, I shall see you in an hour. Why yes, I am also going home for the hour. I look forward to our first mission together. Hinata bowed to Lee and then the two ninjas split up. 1 hour later and Guy's team was assembled outside of the tower. Well done team. Guy praised. I just know that we are going to knock out these missions with youthful agility. Let us be prepared. Naruto could hardly contain his excitement. Yes. Finally, the best part of being a ninja. What kind of missions do you think we'll get? Maybe we'll be charged with protecting a princess of a foreign land. Or maybe we will get to slay some giant monster beast. Lee only looked sadly at Naruto while Hinata smiled slightly at his imagination. Well, let's find out, Guy said, leading them into the tower and up the stairs to the Hokage's office. Without even knocking, Guy barged into the room. Team Guy with Naruto, Hinata, and Lee reporting for duty. Hokage-sama. Guy rang out. Ah, Guy. The Hokage drawled. I was wondering when you would make your way up here. I heard you all the way from the bottom. Yeah. Enough with the pleasantries, old man. I want a mission. Naruto was hit firmly on the head by his sensei. Sorry about him, Hokage-sama. His flames burn so brightly he forgets his manners. Guy almost swore he heard Naruto mumble something about people who didn't knock but chose to ignore it. It's all well, Guy. I just so happen to have a good mission for your team. Naruto looked up expectantly again. The Hokage tried hard not to let his smile show. The Inuzuka's dogs happen to be in need of a walk through the village. I am sure they would appreciate it if you took them. Quote. What the hell? That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.